Hola mis amigas! I hope your writing projects are going great, whether they be for NaNoWriMo or otherwise. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about this color-coded puzzle behind me, my scene card setup. So when it came time to actually plot my NaNoWriMo story, I had a basic gist of the story my brother helped me kind of plan out and write down, but I wasn't sure how the scenes I had come up with outside of that outline list kind of a thing were going to interact with the scenes that I already had and would interact with the characters' internal conflict. So scene cards became a great solution. Firstly, when I decided I wanted to use scene cards, I did a little YouTube research on scene card setups, but I didn't really find anything that I really liked, that I really felt like would really work for me, so I came up with my own setup, and here's how it works. These steps will be presented somewhat out of order of how I did them, simply because we writers aren't machines and sometimes we do things a little out of order, but this is kind of the most methodical way to think of it. 1. Scenes are written on white standard 3x5 index cards. Same things you would use for flashcards if you're studying, and I have used them plenty for that purpose. 2. There are index cards labeled Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 to separate the 3 sections of the story. I section off the 3 acts according to the story beats of my main character. So obviously, you can tell by all the different colors going on that I do kind of plot out the arcs of the other characters and their beats, but I go on the Act 1, the Act 2, and the Act 3 and where those things separate based on the beats of my main character and when her beats hit the Act 2, the Act 3, etc. This brings us to step 3, which was I assigned each character a colored index card and wrote their plot beats on strips of their corresponding index card. I then pinned the corresponding beats over the scene in which that beat is happening to the character. As you can see by all of these different colors over index cards behind me, what I really liked about this setup was it helped me see how everything interacts on a character level. For example, not all of my characters will have the same beats. You know, your antagonist really isn't supposed to have a victory, hopefully, you know? And one of my characters actually ends up realizing that he needs to sacrifice what he really wants for what's more important, which in the context of the story isn't a conventional victory beat. You know, normally in a victory beat, your character does get what they want, even if they realize that they need to change, you know, how they've been getting it, you know, back in the aha moment and, you know, move forward in the truth and then get what they want in the truth and, you know, having overcome their misbelief. So that's not your typical victory beat, if you know what I mean. This setup also helped me see how characters' beats might happen at different times for different characters. For example, my antagonist's midpoint might coincide with my protagonist's disaster. So the scene card setup was also really helpful and easy to transfer into an outline in Word. I used the highlighter function to continue the color coding as well as keeping track of subplots. I made a few tweaks to the beats and also went into more detail with the scenes. So this scene card setup was kind of like just a basic, you know, this is the gist of the scene, this is the gist of the scene. And so in the outline, I went into more detail. I plan to print that outline out and probably print it onto paper that will fit in my happy notes. Not like on a paper that will fit, but onto a size of paper that I can cut out and then glue onto a page of my happy notes so I can just flip through in case, you know, it's kind of hard to type a Word document and have another Word document open at the same time. It's kind of distracting and hard to use for me in that way. So I'll probably print it off, but I kept the color coding system going in the Word document, which is really nice because then it matches my scene card board, so that's really awesome. I'm super pleased with this system. I'm a very visual person, so the color coding was perfect for me. Although I plan to revise my outline at least once, it's currently around 3,000 words, which is pretty good. I actually did get into a little bit of, writing snippets of dialogue. I actually used a color code for, this is a story snippet, but I'm not truly pleased with that because I have story snippets in other places and I don't really know if I want to put all of them in my outline so that they're right there whenever I'm going to type it up, or if I want to have a separate place to have story snippets, or if that would be too difficult because I'd inevitably forget to put one in. That's for another time and another video for me to figure out, because in the past I just scrawled story snippets. Try saying that 5 times fast. I scrawled story snippets just over pieces of notebook paper, and then inevitably I'd forget about some of them and realize, oh, I need to add those in a later version and when I edit. So yeah. The only negative comment I would have about this is that just my bulletin board is just a hair too small. I actually got to the point where I did have to cut some of the index cards that were just for very simple basic scenes, like, where it was 1 or 2 sentences. I had to cut those in half just so I could fit everything on the board. But other than that, I loved it. I definitely plan on using it again. It was super helpful, and it also sped up the process of figuring out the story by like a ton. Because instead of having to retype an outline, I could just come up with a couple of scene cards to replace other scene cards, switch them around, move things around, and it was a lot easier than like, oh, this isn't working, I guess we'll retype the whole outline. Why did I retype the whole outline? Because I only changed one thing. And that was back whenever, like, I mean, not that exact process, but back whenever I was redoing outlines, I was handwriting them, so I got even more stuck because that took a lot longer than, now when I can type. So yeah, I really, really like this setup. I hope you've been inspired by my scene card setup, and happy writing! Get out there and have fun writing the story that you were called to write, and I will see you next time in the next video. Also, send help, because I am in the getting ideas for sequels phase. Sometimes I think that the greatest distraction to writing stories is just the inspiration to write other stories, when you need to finish this story first. But then you're like, well, what if I need to figure out the sequel so then I can make sure I don't, like, tie up a loose end in the first book that needs to be left open for the second book? Got any advice? I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!